Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to Kitchen 701. Today we're going to talk zucchini and squash because if your garden is like mine, it's overloaded full of zucchini and squash, and before you know it, you'll end up with things that are like huge. So let's talk about some ways that we can preserve it while they're growing like crazy. So I've got 2 of the summer squash and then 3 good sized zucchini. I use these interchangeably. I really swear by it because they really have the same flavor, which is basically like no flavor, or they kind of absorb the flavor of everything else that you're cooking it with. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take 2 of these, 1 zucchini and 1 squash, and I'm gonna make some zoodles out of them. Now I've showed you how to do that already. I'm just gonna do that again to remind you guys just how cool using the zoodle feature is. Actually, this one's a little too big for my little zoodle thing, so I'm gonna use a little smaller one, make sure that I can use my spiralizer. Remember how easy this is, right? We just take this. If you have one of those big fancy spiralizers, go for it and use it. But we just literally take this and just start spiralizing. It's the easiest thing ever. And then use these zoodles, or soodles, I guess, if it's spaghetti or summer squash. Use this instead of pasta. You'll never notice the difference. You just don't cook it as long as pasta to keep it nice and firm. And then you've got a no carb, low calorie, rich in all the good stuff, fiber, all the good nutrients you need. It's a great alternative. I sneak in zoodles often in my meals, and believe me, if Britton notices, it's barely, and he's okay with the healthy option too. All right, so just as quick as I'm talking about this, we're getting this done. This is always my favorite part, these little weird pieces that come out of this. That'll go right to the girls for them to enjoy. And then some people like to cut these up a little bit, which I'm gonna do, because otherwise when you are cooking something, or when you're serving something rather, it's a little awkward to try to get a bunch on your fork when it's just this never ending stream of zoodles. So we'll spiral up this zucchini. It's really fun. I love it. And then what we're gonna do is, you can see I've put this in a colander because if you remember, like last time, we're going to add a little bit of salt to this, and then we're just going to let this sit so that the salt will help draw out some of the moisture in the zoodles, because that can be a lot of times people's biggest mistake when making zoodles is they don't account for the absolute crap ton of moisture that are in zoodles, and then it tends to kind of ruin the dish because it's just too watered down. So I'm gonna just take just a little section at a time and just cut them up, just so that they aren't that weird, awkward length of just entirely too long. Okay, simple as that. Get these all in the colander. You can hear Adeline is being distracted by watching Cocomelon. It's the in thing right now with her. All right, so we'll just add a little bit of salt. Stir it around. And there we go. We're just gonna let this hang out. Perfect. Now, we're on to the second thing that we're gonna do with our squash and our zucchini. Are we ready for method number 2 to preserve this stuff? What we're gonna do is we're actually going to slice up our zucchini and our squash, and we're going to blanch them and then flash freeze them, and then freeze them for the long haul. So what it's gonna do for us then is it's gonna preserve some good chunks of zucchini and squash so that we can just keep it in the freezer, pop it out when we wanna make it with a meal. Again, the key is to blanch it. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but you just are gonna cut up the zucchini and squash how you would eat it or have it prepared in your meal. So I'm doing like little, I would say 1/2 inch rounds. If you want to do chunks, you could definitely do that. But for some of these bigger rounds, I'm just going to cut them in half because I don't like eating a whole big, huge chunk of zucchini like that. So we're gonna cut them in half. We've got some decent sizes of the squash. Just a couple of pieces need to get, maybe about half of the zucchini needs to get done that way. And I'm just gonna do the same thing with the rest. Okay, look at how colorful this is. That's kind of my big reason, besides just the fact that squash and zucchini are so plentiful, but it's my big reason to combine them together is because the colors are just so bright. And when you blanch them and flash freeze them like we're going to do, it really helps preserve the color. So next step is we need to blanch this whole big tray of goodies, okay? So behind me here, I've got a pot of boiling water, and we're going to just simply put this in the boiling water for 1 minute. It's gonna take a couple batches. Once they've been boiling for exactly 1 minute, we put them in the water bath, okay? So, or ice bath, I should say, ice and water bath, because that will stop the cooking, because we don't wanna cook these all the way through. We just want to preserve the freshness and the color, and the full cooking of it is when we put it actually in our meal, okay? So let's get this portion of it done. All right, so we're gonna let it boil for 1 minute and we'll catch you back. So now I need to be quick and show you what this process looks like after we have them put in the ice bath, because I got my next batch going there. So I'm just gonna take them out of my ice bath and I'm just gonna assemble them all on this tray. I put some nonstick down. You wouldn't even really need to, but it might just make it that much easier to get them off the tray after you flash freeze them. So just assemble them all, one layer on the tray, and then this tray is what's going to go directly into the freezer and freeze for 1 hour. Okay, so kind of see what I did there? And now I need to get going because I need to go rescue those squash. So here we go. Here's my tray full of all the blanched and ice bathed zucchini and squash. So this is ready to go in the freezer for 1 hour. Then when you take it out, you're going to just bag them in freezer bags and put them away in the freezer for good until you're ready to use them. All right, let's do this. Buy zucchini and squash at the farmer's market, or if you have your own grown, do this to keep that for all winter. Thanks for watching. Bye.